Yeah.
How long? With the fires in California, we get cold, they get the heat.
My haircut was good.
Could you?
I noticed it well. Charlie needs one, but his hairdresser's lacking.
Someone else needs one and didn't get it before someone else went before. Oh, I can't do that. I said, why not? The shop's all torn out.
You gonna have to go to Florida to get a haircut?
Yeah.
Not this year. Any other year I would
Great.
Roberta's not using this.
No.
Nope.
Doing whatever.
have. Yeah, I got it. People can be there. But anyway, but they also.
Got 3 days of it.
Yeah. Are you supposed to get any precipitation with that?
I don't think so.
Just
not
not.
It's too damn cold to
Yeah,
precipitate.
Remember how you returned?
Well, hopefully it's it melted and it glossed it over so it won't blow around. I'll tell you, they were this 726 to the current county line. You know, in the morning it's just all drifted over and everything lines out.
Must be last one.
Yeah.
It's like completely clear, and you're going 50 miles an hour, and you come around the corner, and all of a sudden it's drifted.
I think York County, ODOT concentrates on 127, 46, 49.
The last one to live.
Yes.
Oh, no, I had a coach chat. I called Jennifer called me and I said, I knew I was. I said, I report to you. But on it, yes, 2 pages of questions. But one of them was
That was a good trip last Sunday.
Yes, that was an enjoyable time. Not a good reason, but I mean, it was still more than worthwhile. Hi, Cecil.
Coming in before it gets cold, huh?
Somebody took our address list up there, so I'll have to give you your birthday card by hand. Because we filled it out last week, but I never got it mailed because I didn't have your address.
You good?
I got one.
You got one? Welcome, Cecil.
First Universalist of New Madison on this frosty January day. Hard to believe we're cleared the end of January already.
Yep.
Any announcements? Don't know of anything coming up. Anybody want to say anything? We went to Richard's memorial at Cox Arboretum. This is the last picture of Richard that Marcia took at the home. And actually, let me show you one. Martin Luther King Day tomorrow. Don't forget that.
Very, very good trip last Sunday. Good pizza.
And this was the picture they had on at Cox.
Yeah.
Much better picture of Richard.
Yeah.
Much happier.
That's more the way we remember him.
That's the way we remember him and like to remember him. So
the previous one was his last days in the nursing home.
yes, that's when he was pretty confused.
Yes.
And what we're going to do today, they read at the service, Marcia read a little bit out of his book, Every Place is Holy Ground, and read out of 2 or 3 different chapters. But there is a chapter called Concerning Our Living and Our Dying. Let me give you the beginning. I knew Andrew quite well about the time he discovered, like his mother, that he had Alzheimer's disease. He actually wrote an essay about one of his parishioners who had Alzheimer's and the choices he was making.
And his mother also had.
Yes, so that's what we're gonna talk about today. They did not really cover that. Marcia covered it, her experience with it. But she didn't, and I don't know why, she didn't read out of this chapter, which I think is most apropos to what was going on.
But as she said, his demeanor remained the same all the way through.
And that is relatively unusual.
Yeah.
I worked at a nursing home as an aide while I was going through nursing school. And I think I've told you that before. There were numerous people there with pictures on the wall of the man happy at a family on a cruise, Christmas with holding the grandkids in his lap. And he was the most difficult person. He would fight, he would swear, he would spit on you. That was not who that man was. There was something, he'd been inhabited. I guess if we were fundamentalists, we would say he'd been inhabited by a demon. But Richard stayed the same pleasant, happy, nice person that he was the whole time. Interestingly enough, the people that got up and spoke, the people he played tennis with, the people he played golf with,
Ran with.
the people he exercised with,
Yeah.
not exactly what I had, I know Richard is an intellectual, and I guess after seeing that, I picture him as a big city college professor, hanging around with higher class people. I never really pictured him as that here because he was just a regular person who knew regular people and could talk to regular people. He wasn't somebody who, kind of passed on that upper echelon. So
Yes, and diversity in those attending the memorial service. And I mean diversity in terms of from all walks of life, as you just mentioned, his trainer, okay?
Yes.
People who cared for him. Those in 3 or 4 different, or at least 3 congregations, family members. It was so diverse, and I think that represented his life so well in terms of the people he knew and the friendships he cultivated.
And the loyalty he inspired. There were people from this church in Michigan who came down from Michigan to Southern Ohio to attend his memorial service. Almost every church he served, there was somebody there. There wasn't anybody there from Detroit, but they were from the small church he was at in Michigan. And there might have been, we just didn't find out. I couldn't stay, I had something else to do. Also, we went to Old Scratch, which is his stepson's restaurant. There's 3 now. Interesting Italian pizza, like truly Neapolitan pizza, which is the original Italian pizza is basically just crust, 1 or 2 pieces of pepperoni, 1 or 2 pieces of some kind of herb, basil or rosemary or whatever, and a little bit of cheese.
3 ingredients.
Yeah, 3 ingredients. And that even said on the menu that if you're smothering your pizza and making it gooey and damp if you put too many ingredients on it. So Papa John and Domino's are definitely doing American style pizza. This was a pizza with a big slice you could fold over and eat. It was very good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I prefer Italian pizza over American pizza, but for a change, it was nice. And it was a nice little restaurant, enjoyable time.
Mentioning people from out of state, I met them earlier, I don't know, a few years back, but anyway, they now live in Hagerstown, Maryland, and they were there at the memorial service.
From Hagerstown.
And they had been friends of Marcia and Richards both.
So, quite a person. The same person that we knew, he'd been basically his entire life. And we'll talk a little bit about that. What we're going to talk about more is the Altzheimers and the essay that he wrote and the choice that people have to make, or the choices that you have available to make. Okay, Chalice Light. Well, first of all, Prelude. Isn't it romantic? We're coming up on February. All right, our chalice lighting. Birth is a miracle of love and courage, bringing light into the world. Death is the loss of light, but no less an act of courage. For we are born from and return to mystery. That's by Lori Halliban, 2009. Our opening hymn is 361. Enter, rejoice, and come in. you need of.
That's a lively song.
It is. That's a great song. Not a lot of really happy songs as hymns, so it's nice to have that one. All right. You're welcome to read along. This is our classic old affirmation, which I enjoy, but I also enjoy finding things from the church that they've added for prayers and affirmations. So we do this one occasionally, but I guess I'm one of those people that doesn't like to do the same thing every Sunday. It just seems like you're going through the motions. So, but this one is worthwhile. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human needs, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. That pretty much encapsulates, says everything in the thumbnail that that this church is all about, that a Universalist Unitarian church is all about. Okay, children's story, we'll see if it'll play. I've got two different versions. Can you understand this? That's what I was afraid of. I had a different copy. Let me see if I got a different. That was the copy that I made, and my phone doesn't record very well. I love that picture. And this was the one that's online that half the time doesn't play, which is why I recorded the other one. And they always work at home, but they don't work here. This is an Irish poem, and it's a really good poem about grief and what grief is like. He compares it to a giant wave that washes over you. That wave is 100 feet tall, and it comes and it comes and it's come. But as time goes along, the wave gets a little lower, 50 feet, 20 feet. The distance between waves gets longer and longer. And I'm sure all of you have lost someone that you care about, and I thought that was a really apt description of what grief is like, because that first few days, the first few weeks, it just seems overwhelming. You're just like drowning in it. You can't, there's nothing you can do. You can barely keep your head above water. But it never, ever truly goes away. Christmas or a birthday or a smell or a sight or an experience will bring that wave back. It won't be as high and as debilitating, as dangerous, but that wave still is always there. And that is, in a sense, a good thing. It keeps the memory of the person you are remembering, it keeps that memory alive. So I wish the guy was Irish and has a really good accent, so I'm going to have to figure out a better way to record at home. The little wheel is turning. It's not even there. So let's go to. Okay. I may play it for you some other time, because it is definitely worth doing. Okay, joys and concerns. We got a lot of them today. All right, we'll start out with light a candle for Margaret. Margaret was at the memorial service at Cox. She wasn't able to stay very long. That family has had multiple difficulties. And Margaret is a pretty strong person, but she struggles sometimes to keep up with what's going on. So we just want to, and Margaret, we haven't seen her for quite a while. I know she kind of wants to be here if she could. And she was here last time with Patrick, which was really nice to see Patrick. So we'll just light a candle for Margaret and Patrick. We'll light a candle for Roberta. She doesn't like to drive in bad weather, so we miss Roberta's piano playing, we miss her smile and her personality. So we hope she's able to come back when the weather gets a little bit better. We talked about this before. All of us are kind of at the upper age when anything can happen to any of us at any time, which if you remember the Christmas Carol, when the ghost of Christmas past says things go like this, and then suddenly you're not here anymore. It can happen to any of us that we're not going to be here anymore. So we appreciate you when you are here. Israel, Palestine, they have signed the agreement. It's supposed to start today. The hostages are supposed to be starting to be released, and the prisoners that the Israelis have had are supposed to be released. There will be many problems with this is going on. Both sides are dragging their feet.
Peace treaty again.
Yes, the same peace treaty that was agreed to 3 or 4 months ago, that just like, if you remember when Ronald Reagan became president and Jimmy Carter was the president, and the hostages from Iran were basically freed, but they made a deal that they wouldn't be freed until Reagan was the president so he could get the glory. This type of thing, politics goes on, and we're going to be inundated with that as time goes along. Ukraine, they've captured North Korean soldiers. Some of them have been indoctrinated so much they commit suicide rather than being captured, but they have no idea what the real world is like. The Ukrainians are deprogram them or interview them, and they basically live their entire life under propaganda with no exposure to outside information. So they have no idea what is going on. But that is the situation. The Ukraine is now not just fighting Russia, they're fighting North Korea, they're fighting Iran, they're fighting China, and even India is giving supplies, military supplies to Russia. They cannot stand by themselves, and that's one thing that we'll put down. I guess we'll light a candle. Actually, we need to light one for Martin Luther King Day, which is going to kind of get lost. That's tomorrow, which is interesting that it's the day of inauguration is also Martin Luther King Day. There's going to be an argument about the attendance, and that things have changed because the weather's going to be cold. The ceremony has been moved inside the Capitol Rotunda. There are lots of unhappy people who paid a lot of money to come to Washington to see it, and they won't get in to see it. So the same MAGA people who are unhappy about the past government are already on the first day unhappy with the current government. So more power to them.
Everything's going to be inside this year.
Yes. He's having a ceremony at the baseball stadium or football stadium or someplace.
Yeah.
And that's limited attendance. But I've seen the information when Obama was inaugurated. Even when Biden was inaugurated, the hotel occupancy in Washington, D.C. was like 90-some%. It's only 70% with this. And one of the reasons is, the reason it was higher when his first inauguration, the town was full of protesters, and those people are not even coming, and people who live in Washington are leaving. So the nation is truly divided, and it is getting worse and worse and worse. And I guess let me go through one of the reasons it's getting worse. Have anybody paid any attention to the list of dignitaries that are going to be inside the rotunda on the dais with the president-elect? Has anybody seen that list?
Nope.
Number one, it's going to be all the billionaires. Bezos, Musk, all those guys who contributed $1 million each. Musk contributed $250 million, or was it billion? I think it was $1 million to the election to get him elected. They're going to be right up there with the family and honored guests. The other people who have been invited, let me go through the list. Nigel Farage from England, the Brexit guy, the real conservative Brexit guy. The Christian, or the Italian premier, the woman who's the Italian premier, who's the head of the Christian Identity Party. the Germany AfD party leader. AfD is basically a neo-Nazi party. They even denied Germany's responsibilities for the atrocities in World War II. They are a reincarnation of the Nazi party. The Polish Prime Minister, the Law and Justice Party, a very conservative, anti-immigrant, anti-LGBTQ rights. They've changed the whole Polish judicial system, so basically they don't have free elections anymore. The Belgium VM's Belang Party, the same conservative stripe. The Portugal Chega Party, anti-migrant, anti-Roma. The French anti-Muslim conservative party. Spain, the Vox Party, they want to actually build another wall at Spain's border. They're copying Trump. Argentina, the leader of Argentina says the Pope is a communist. And Brazil, Bolsonaro, if you remember him, he tried to do an insurrection when he lost the vote and tried to take over the capital of Brasilia, and that failed. These are people who are being invited to sit with President-elect Trump.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Birds of a feather, and you know who was not invited, like the head of the EU? Anybody who's a moderate or a Democrat is not invited to sit. This is the most, and they even invited the Chinese premier, Xi, or whatever his name is. He didn't come, but he is sending his vice president. So every dictator around the country, around the world, is being invited to sit. That's who he admires. This is scary, folks. It is really scary. Okay. Any other joys and concerns?
Just letting him aboard. Lou and Denise as well, just that hopefully they're doing well.
Are they in Michigan?
I don't know.
Okay. Lou was here did he come to the,
2 weeks ago.
yeah, 2 weeks ago. He didn't come to the memorial. But Denise is having health problems. Yeah, we should light a candle actually for Denise for her health problems. I haven't got an update on that. Hopefully they're at least getting an understanding of what's going on, because if you don't know what the diagnosis is, it's real hard to find a treatment for it. So let's do some prayers for her. Okay. We'll light a final candle for those thoughts and prayers, those desires and those fears that you're not able to establish, you're not able to speak, maybe you're not even able to recognize. They just kind of free-floating anxiety, I think is what they call it. Okay, the message, we'll just leave Richard up there. Let me... Every civilization carries the seeds of its own destruction, and the same cycle shows in them all. The republic is born, it flourishes, it decays into plutocracy, and is captured by the shoemaker whom the mercenaries and millionaires make into a king. The people invent their oppressors, and the oppressors serve the function for which they are invented. That's a little example of what I think and what this person thinks. This is out of the magazine Atlantic, as kind of a scenario of what is going on now. Let's see. We were at Cox Arboretum, actually, and I think I had, maybe I didn't. Nope. Let me go back to the other. I made another copy, and it has pictures of Cox Arboretum. So that's the one I should have pulled up. good. Where's Emerson when you need him? All right, I'll bring that up when I get. I've got a picture of Cox Arboretum, really a beautiful place, and we'll see if we can.
Well, I gotta say, I love that picture right there.
It's nice to look at, isn't it?
Oh, I love the fish eye.
I like to walk around there.
It's a beautiful place, and it's a good place for memorial too. And lots of other people were there, which made it kind of interesting. Huh. Well, we'll see if it comes through. All right, concerning our living and dying, this is a poem by Nancy Wood that's in the beginning of this article in the book. You will ask what good our dead leaves, and I will tell you they nourish the sore earth. You shall ask, what reason is there for winter? And I will tell you to bring about new leaves. You shall ask, why are the leaves so green? And I will tell you, because they are rich with life. You shall ask, why must the summer end? And I will tell you, so that the leaves can die. Let me begin, and I'll just quote out of the book here. Andrew had Alzheimer's disease or something akin to it, for he could sense that his mind was not always tracking as it should, and his wife could still report to him about his forgetfulness. I remember sitting with him on the back porch of his very modern home. We talked about how he had watched his mother's life deteriorate and how he once found her wandering outside without any clothes. He was afraid. Richard, he said to me, I am not afraid to end my life, but I want to do it when the time is right. I don't want to do it while I still have the ability to make decisions and choose. Yet, if I wait too long, if I turn the corner, then my mind will be too far gone and I can't make the decision. The catch-22 situation for most who have such a crippling mental disease is that by the time you want to die, you are unable to do anything about it. So it was for Andrew. He passed the time when he could decide for himself how he would die, be it suicide or a hospital order not to resuscitate or by an incident or accident of some kind. Eventually, he could not complete sentences and did not know where he was. The question, and Richard goes through and talks about the family and what the decision is, but the question he asks is, do we have the permission ultimately to choose to die when we want to? That's the question I'm asking you. Do we have the permission to choose when we want to die? And the questions that Richard, remember his family, Marcia said at the end of every chapter he had questions for discussion, and that's what he calls it, questions for further reflection. What would you be able to assist someone who wanted your help with their end of life? Would you be able to help someone end their life if they decided that? Should there be an age past which no special means to keep a dying or terminally ill patient alive should be allowed? In other words, should there be an age when you don't get medical help, when you become a hospice patient, whether you want to or not? And 3, what guidelines should be applied regulating the use of organs to assist those in need of them? That is one of the other things that we didn't really talk about, and Richard didn't talk about, but believed in strongly, was organ donation. What guidelines should be applied regulating the use of organs to assist those in need of them? Does anybody want to hazard a guess on that, or has an opinion? There's Cox Arboretum, if you haven't been there. Beautiful place, beautiful on the inside as well as the outside, and the grounds are really nice. I didn't put all of them in. And here's another favorite picture of Richard. This was one of the last times he was here, and a little confused, but still knew who he was. Couldn't place everything and couldn't communicate totally appropriately, but still could talk and still could. And we kind of told Marcia, even if he lost his place, he could come up and still do his sermon presentations. That was something that was buried deep inside his brain. And even when he got lost during the service, which happens to me, I get mixed up on the program and forget something, we just remind him, just like you remind me, and we go ahead and make it straight. He was such a joy to listen to and had such profound thoughts, such a sensitivity to other people and situations that he was a joy to learn from. He was a teacher from the very beginning. He was a natural teacher, and he was one of those people who they could teach you and you didn't realize you'd been taught. It wasn't until later when you stop and think about it and said, you know, I learned something here that I didn't even know I was learning. That is the most profound teacher, I think, that I've ever experienced. Really enjoyed Richard and the time he was here. All right. Any comments on any of that? They may want to discuss any of that. Do we have a choice? Should we be able to make a choice to end our life? I'm very strong, and I think I told you that joke, and I told my wife that, and she gets a chuckle out of it, that I put a recording on a small explosive device under our bed, and when I wake up in the morning, it says, "What is your name?" And if I can't tell it in 30 seconds, so I've taken the decision-making power out of my hands. I've set up the situation because I firmly believe in that. Even in Richard's situation, if you don't know who you are and you're lost as a personality, you're not really that person anymore. You're a shell carrying the body, walking around, but you're not that person. And I would not want to burden my family with that. I wouldn't want to burden my wife with that. But as he mentioned, and as that went through in that example, in that essay, when to decide that, as long as you're aware of who you are and can make the decision, then you're not ready to end your life. It's only when you can't do that that you want to end your life. You don't want to exist without the knowledge. But that's the catch-22. When as soon as you don't know who you are, then it's too late. You can't do it. And that's the reason he's asking. And this has happened before, and you've seen news reports of the husband who goes into the hospital and shoots his wife, who has asked him many times, "I want to die, I want to die, I want to die." And he can't get the hospital to cooperate. He can't get anybody to cooperate. And he's willing to sacrifice the end of his life to bring her the release, the surcease, what she wants in life most is to end the suffering. And he is willing to do that for her. You see those situations documented many times. Where would you be if someone asked you to do that? If it was someone close to you, if it was someone an acquaintance, if it was some stranger, do you make a distinction between that? There now is, in many countries in Europe, the right to die, like in Amsterdam, in Holland, they have a right to die thing. A person can petition the government for the right to die, but these are people who have painful cancers, terminal diseases. They are making the decision while they are still competent and asking for assistance while they're still competent. That's not really what we're talking about. As long as, and this is my feeling, you have to find your own, but you need to think about it. As long as you're competent and thinking and aware of what's going on, every day is a joy. You don't want to end it there. You want to end it when you can't realize it anymore. And how do you do that unless you have someone to help you? So, any comments on that?
Well, human thought and thinking is mind-boggling in itself, obviously, and that's no fun. So that fine line between am I able and capable consciously to make this decision and not, I hear what you're saying there. But then it begs the question, the collision between personal autonomy, I can make a decision because my neurons are still firing in my brain properly, but there's also social conventions, social mores, whole social structure, and the rule of law colliding. And if we can't resolve the question of, am I still capable of making this decision or not, if we're not able to do that, I don't know whether we can really change the law or really any social conventions, because we're all, I think, wired to honor, protect, guarantee, if you will, at a sort of our life existence. And so I don't know how that's going to all be resolved. I know through legislation, I think the state of Oregon, a few states anyway, have entertained this. Europe's a little further ahead than we are. And all that early work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and all of those people, I'm not sure if it can be resolved, because it involves neurons firing in the brain, and we can't right now have the sophisticated instrumentation, measurement, or whatever else to say, yes, they're capable of it, no, they're not.
And that's the conundrum, that's the question. And law really complicates the factor, because people make laws, and with gerrymandering, the kind of people making the laws are not always the kind of people we want. So what you have is an example of there's no such thing as abortion. So women right now are dying because they can't get a D&C, a dilation and curettage, if they have a abrupt abortion or a partial abortion. Normally you would go in and clean out what's left, but if there's still a heartbeat, the law says in these conservative states you're not allowed to do that, and women then are getting septic and dying, literally dying in Texas, because the doctors cannot take care of them. The doctors are afraid to take care of them. What else is happening in Texas? They put up concertina wire on the edge of the Rio Grande and floating barriers with saw blades between the floats. A woman and both of her kids have drowned in the Rio Grande trying to get to Texas. The state of Texas is literally killing people to keep them from coming to the state of Texas. You're telling me the state of Texas cares so much about life that they forbid abortion, but they take life with wanton abandon if it doesn't suit their political means. When people tell us that life is the most important thing in the American psyche, preserving life, we see lives thrown away every day, intentionally thrown away. When speed limits are raised to 75 miles an hour, etc. When they say, the state says, the gerrymandered state says, you can't have street light, stoplight cameras to arrest people running stoplights automatically. There has to be a policeman there. How many people are killed because someone runs a stoplight and runs into another car and kills somebody? A good way to stop that is to give everybody a ticket when they do that. But the conservative majority on our state says that's infringing on my personal rights to run stoplights whenever I want to. That's crazy. How much do we say we care about life? How much do we pay preschool teachers? How much do we pay the people who staff the nursing homes, who take care of our old? The very young preschool and kindergarten people and babysitters are low paid, and the people who care for our elderly are low paid. As a consequence, kids who are going to daycare are dying. Kids or elderly people in nursing homes are dying from neglect. Do we really care about these people? No. What we care about is the almighty dollar, once again. So don't give me that bull about how much we care and how much we preserve life.
Or we care about preserving our right, meaning my right. Okay?
Yes.
So it's often that. And then I think it translates into politics, and then this very crude expression, they get their way. Okay?
Yes.
So there's a dangerous pathogen virus out there, and we're not sure even how to diagnose it right now and to identify it. We're not sure whether it can kill people or put them on respirators and they die very shortly. But it's my right to not wear the face mask because I want that right. And we saw that playing out and it plays out today.
Yes.
It's okay to wear a face mask in a surgical suite because a germ might come out of that surgeon's face, eyes, ears, wherever. But more importantly, it's going to jeopardize the life of that person. But because I don't want to wear a face mask, I have the right to infect other people. And so much so that I can hammer away at the Ohio legislature, and that will somehow, someday, enter into legislation and become a law that it's my right to infect other individuals.
And that's the same rights thing as on vaccinations. Parents have the rights not to have their children vaccinated. That would be fine if their children were the only ones that suffer. But you all know about herd immunity. Immunizations in the more conservative states, in Florida, the immunization for measles have fallen from 97% down to 80%. When you get below 91 or 92%, what they call herd immunity is disappearing. That means if some kid comes to school with the measles, it will spread to other kids, and then it will spread to other kids, and then it will spread to other kids. If 95 or 96% of the people are vaccinated, one person comes to school with the measles, everybody else is basically immune. In the more conservative states, Idaho, for example, where people have the choice and are encouraged not to use vaccinations, they will be, and there's some people who cannot be vaccinated because their system reacts against the vaccine. So these people are the ones who are innocently dying the same way as the mask, like Mike was talking about. You have the right to wear a mask yourself to protect yourself. But if you are infected and choose not to wear a mask and go around blowing infectious germs all over the place, there are people who innocently forgot their mask or whatever, and those people are the ones who die. You may not die, but the other people will die. And that's what my freedom to not wear a mask, that's the whole point about demanding and requiring that you stop at stoplights, requiring that you get vaccinated before you send your kids to school. It's a public health basic truism that every fundamental doctor and everybody else agrees with, but our people who are MAGA, everybody is more important. It's my right to have a gun, my right to have a machine gun, my right to have as many guns as I want. All these people, their rights infringe on other people's rights, and that's where it used to stop.
And you spoke of herd immunity. Just 2 years ago, I believe it was, the Dade County News conducted a survey of schools in the Miami Valley. The percentage of parents exempting their child from required immunizations. And they rated the top 10 of exemptions in the tri-village schools was at number 9 or 10.
Really?
I believe they had 11 to 12% of their individual parents exempting their child from immunization.
So they're down to 90%, which means everybody is in danger. That's the sad thing. So, all right, even without being on the other stuff, we've used up our time. So the most important thing I wanted to bring you was to be aware, and in our age group, I'm sure everybody has already thought about it, but the answer, there still is no answer there. It's something to be aware of, and I don't know what the answer is. I've given you my opinion. I do not want to linger on if I'm not here, but I am not, just like Richard said there, and just like the irony of Richard writing that story and that essay and then the same thing happening to him. Except, and that's maybe an example, if you could be happy like Richard and be pleasant, like Marcia said, he was always pleasant even to the very end, even when he couldn't talk anymore. Like she said, he was the only person in the nursing home who said thank you every time the nurse gave him a pill. If I could be that person, then let me linger. But if I would turn into that person who fights and spits and bites, I don't want to do that to anybody else, and I don't want to be remembered, because my memory of that person is that's what he was like. I didn't know him when he was the happy person I saw in the pictures. So that is a person whose last memory in somebody else's mind is of a really nasty person. I would not want to be remembered like that. Okay.
He was a
Offering.
great person. I want to tell you, he come to our house a couple times. He was a wonderful person. You could talk straight to him.
Who's that?
Richard.
Richard, yes.
He would come to our house and talk to him. He was just a wonderful, wonderful, down-to-earth person.
I've known 2 or 3 people, and they were pastors, who have that ease. They just have that little smile on their face, and they never met a stranger, and everybody is their friend. And everybody, there's a guy named Butch who was in our church, to Oregon or Washington. That same thing, and they're the kind of people, kind of like David, who was here, the kind of people who they get appointed to boards and they're on voluntary groups because they're just a natural born person that everybody trusts, everybody likes, and they take that responsibility seriously. They don't abuse it, and they are someone that you can talk to. Not everybody is like that, and not all pastors are like that. If you find a pastor like that, you're pretty lucky, because they're not always larger than life. Sometimes they're hypocritical little petty triumphs.
Well, I remember too, he was honest, fair, and consistent. Honest, fair, and consistent.
Yes.
He was that way around me all the time.
Yep. And that's why we really miss Richard. And that's why, and everybody knows that, that's why attendance at the church was a lot higher when Richard was here, because he was a person who brought people in. Margaret attended church with Richard in Miami, in Dayton, and when Richard came here, Margaret came with him. Yeah, and so did you. So, and that's a triumph. That's a tribute to Richard's ability as a pastor and as a person. My only regret on that is I don't like to see churches that are personality led, because just like Richard's example, when Richard leaves, then everybody leaves the church. In the church, the community is still there. The community still needs someone to care for the community, and not all of us can find a Richard to replace a Richard. So there are just not enough of them to go around.
It's a tough decision here. It's a tough refill.
Yes. All right. So we'll be hearing for our contributions. Offering. Give me the simple life, right? Yes. 9 in honor of Martin Luther King, we shall overcome. And I guess the sentiment is as important today as it was during the March on Washington. We may have to march on Washington again, even though we be few in number. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday. And what comes to mind, I don't know why, I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks. All right, that's from The Wizard of Oz. Our extinguishing the chalice, a blessing of darkness and light. Blessed is the dark in which our dreams stir and are revealed. Blessed is the dark of the earth where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of the ocean where no light shimmers, the womb of all earthly life. Blessed is the light into which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the tree forth from the seed and calls the shadow forth from the tree. Blessed are we as we move through darkness and through light. That's by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. And our last quote, this is a Mark Twain quote, kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Our postlude, thanks for the memory, Richard and Marcia. coffee. I'll show you the last picture, but not very long. Life comes to an end for all of us. Sometimes you have to realize it when it's there and make your decisions on what you want to do about it. This horse was found starving, but they actually fed it and raised it back up, and it became healthy again until the end. But sometimes this is what it looks like, and there is no future there, so you have to be ready and understand what is going on. Death is not something to fear, it's something to embrace if it is the right time. All right, donuts and coffee, we'll see you next week, I hope. If you need something, please come and let us know. We'll try to help you if we can. Yes?
Nice job.
Difficult subject, and I don't know really what the best way of approaching it is, but it's something that everybody needs to think about. And Richard did a remarkable job, and Marcia did a remarkable job taking care of Richard. I mean, she made his life much easier. And I guess I can say that if somebody's in the nursing home, they need someone that takes care of them.
Him and I know how much Nell used to be here.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't know this. He was a good guy. Okay. He brought people in, and people liked him, and talked to him.
Yes.
What type of people? And once in a while.
Always, there's that one guy that Richard brought in, oh, that Jim McPherson. Jim McPherson, he was a drummer for the rock band The Breeders from Dayton.
Oh, I heard about
Do you remember
that,
The
yeah.
Breeders?
Yes, I
I
remember.
watched those old YouTube clips of them, you know, and Jim came with his wife. Because I think his wife was a member of the Dayton church, but Jim came, you know, that's kind of cool. Yes, sir.